Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. The new EPIX series, Godfather of Harlem, tells the true story of infamous crime boss Bumpy Johnson and how he kept control of Harlem in the 1960s. Actress Lucy Fry joins us today to talk about her role as Stella, a young woman engaged in a dangerous love affair that could have deadly consequences. Here's the clip.
Hello.
Daddy?
Baby, I see why my mama left here. If I was with you, I'd be hanging from a tree right now.
Teddy, baby, listen to me. Bobby Robinson's going to listen to the demo.
You serious?
I'm telling you, he's gonna listen to it. He's gonna love it. It's all gonna happen.
I'll be in Harlem on the next bus back.
Baby, you can't do that. Not until all this stuff with my dad is settled. Even now, he's got one of his soldiers following me around. But don't worry, I have a plan. I'm gonna convince him we broke up.
What?
It'll get him off our back.
I couldn't sleep last night. I miss you bad, Stella. I don't care about him. Right now, I'm thinking it'd be all right to die if it meant I get another night with you.
Teddy, you know we gotta play it safe. You know my father.
Put your hands together for Lucy Fry. That clip, I think, is a really perfect one because it just sums up the high stakes and just the intensity that this character has to go through at this time.
Right, yeah, she's under a lot of pressure.
A lot of stress.
Yeah, like she's got a lot going on and she's trying to keep it together, but yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Stella and her role in Godfather of Harlem.
So Stella is the Gigantes' daughter. So he's the Italian mob boss. And so she's grown up in a really tough family and a strangely eccentric family also. And so she's trying to break away from her father and from her family and everything that they represent. And she loves music. So that's how she met Teddy Green, by seeing him singing at this bar that she always goes to. And this romance has developed in the background. And then when you meet them in episode 1, they're already completely in love. And her father is realizing that she's in love with someone that he wants to kill because of the race relations of 1963 in Harlem. And so Stella and Teddy kind of become the bridge of the story because there's this really intense war going on between the Italian gang and Forrest's gang, and then she's like trying to overcome this. So yeah.
It's like Romeo and Juliet, which they reference.
Right.
But we
yeah.
all know that that was a tragedy. So
yeah.
I'm nervous for Stella.
Yeah, I was nervous for Stella too.
So what kind of conversations did you have about Stella? Because I know Bumpy, Forrest Whitaker plays Bumpy, who's based on a real guy.
Yeah.
A lot of the characters are real people. Is Stella a real person, or is she kind of a made-up sort of?
She was a made-up part of the story, and I think that it was an essential part to invent because otherwise there's no bridge. And I think that Stella and Teddy try to bring the story into 2019 in a way, because otherwise it would be hard to relate. And I feel like today that's what, everyone's trying to figure out, like, how do we bridge the historical gap? And that's what Stella and Teddy are trying to do, even though it's in 1963. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what was your audition process like for this show?
It was really fun. I was staying with my friends in Hoboken and I got the audition, and the family I was staying with, their grandparents, the daughter, it was the dad's parents, are Italian, New York. And so I learned the accent from them and talked a lot about, I guess, the history of gang violence and gangs in New York, and kind of getting into it a little bit just that way for the audition. And so it was kind of fun. Like when I went in, I felt like I had a bit of teamwork involved, and I'd never done that accent before. So that was what I was really nervous about, was like, how am I going to do that?
What kind of work did you do to nail it? Was it just like a lot of repetition?
I watched a lot of Goodfellas. Like I watched Goodfellas on repeat. I feel like I know the whole movie backwards. But yeah, and Lorraine Braco in that, because it starts in the 60s. And I love her voice. So I kind of just tried to steal her voice.
And it does really, when I heard your accent, and a lot of the characters have to sort of put on some sort of accent because it was a certain time period. And it just really transports you back to that time. And then also you guys, it takes place in Harlem, and you guys actually shot up in Harlem.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was so cool. Yeah, we had, me and Kelvin, who played Teddy, we had a few scenes on a rooftop in Harlem, and they made it very 60s and had like a little pigeon coop. and like just looking out over the city, it was so romantic and just like really amazing to see the city from that perspective and the beautiful architecture. Yeah, I loved it.
How much does that as an actor help you sort of get into character versus like shooting on a stage somewhere, but when you actually get to like walk the streets and sort of that these people did walk at one point, does that sort of help you transform a little bit?
Completely. Yeah, when you're in a set and it's built, you use your imagination a lot more, but when you're in a real apartment or on a real rooftop, then you don't have to use your imagination and you can just settle into it and you can feel the energy of the streets and you can feel this place that's so exciting. And yeah, I've always dreamed of getting the chance to live in New York for a bit. And so like shooting here and getting to be here, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Were you here in the winter though?
I was.
Yeah. So that makes you not want to live in New York.
It was the polar vortex. And my little Australian body was like, what is this?
What is happening?
I walked outside and my nose just started bleeding because it was so cold and like my skin went bananas. It was like getting all these pimples from the freezing cold. I was just like not used to it.
Welcome to our struggles.
Yeah.
You live in LA though, right?
Yeah.
So you've defrosted?
I've defrosted now. And now I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. Like if we do a second season, I think I'm gonna... Yeah.
Now you're prepared, but you got to ramp. These winters are insane. So,
yeah. Unlike anything I've ever experienced.
It's real life. That's why people are so angry here all the time.
No.
It's just cold.
No, they're not. I love New Yorkers. I feel like New Yorkers are just direct, and it's just like, yeah, it's so nice.
Forrest Whitaker is a force. He really embodies Bumpy, I feel like, this kind of subtle, gentle man who has a very violent, serious streak. I mean, that's so interesting to play. So what was your interaction with Forrest? Did he help you at all in your process?
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of Forrest Whitaker since I was a kid and saw him in The Last King of Scotland. And so just watching him, I mean, I couldn't believe it on set when I was acting with him. I was like pinching myself to not just freak out. And he's so kind and so gentle. And I think that's one of the ways that he's such a powerful present actor is because he's just able to settle in and be. He just could become Bumpy Johnson. And it was really magnificent to watch the way that he did that with such subtlety. I love the subtlety in his work. And yeah, he was so kind to me while we were shooting and very like whenever we had scenes together, I could see the way that he was working and just getting to learn from him. And sometimes I would just go onto the set and just watch him do his scenes because I wanted to see how he did it. Yeah.
It'd be so fun. I mean, like you said, you can also be a student at the same time as you're out there doing, acting and living your dream.
Well, when you get to work with someone like Forrest, to not make the most of it and learn as much as you can would just be a missed opportunity. Yeah.
You mentioned some of the research you did for the role about the Italian crime syndicate. What did you learn that was interesting about this period and how just powerful these groups were?
Yeah, I mean, it was all so weird and really interesting. And I was living in the East Village and there's the American Gangster Museum is right there. So I went there and like looked at the history of starting in Prohibition and during like the time when there would be like rum runners and bringing alcohol into the little speakeasies and having these little secret basements where people could go and like have a good time together and how the gangs kind of got control and got money and power during that time. And then, and I guess that it was a lot of immigrants, like the Spanish or the Italians, who kind of would do that in order to get enough money to make their way in America. And that's something that the show talks about a bit, is like the oppression of the Italians or the Spanish and African American people, and that was what was leading to the violence that these gangs had. And I guess how oppression leads to violence. And then another side of it was, watching documentaries about the Chin Gigantes, so Stella's father. And even though Stella was a fictionalized character, it was really interesting that the Chin, in order to not get arrested, he would shuffle around New York in a bathrobe and with, pretending to be crazy. He was pretending to be crazy so that if he got arrested, the police wouldn't be able to charge him because
insanity.
Yeah. Wow. And he wasn't insane at all. And he would just do all these crazy things. And that was one of the things, realizing this family is super eccentric. Of okay, they're really violent gangsters, but they're very strange people.
The lengths they would go to keep their business, I guess, going.
Yeah.
That's intense. I did not know that. That's so cool.
It's really thinking outside the box.
You go in rabbit holes with these stories. I feel like once you start researching that stuff, it opens up a whole new world. And one of the
things was that they would the Chin would black out their house. And Catherine Narducci, who played my mom in it, or my stepmom in it, she was doing all of this research, and we would get together and make up our backstories together and talk about it. And she has this perfect, incredible New York Italian accent because that's what she is. And so she would help me with my voice as well. And we're talking about what it would be like living in this house with all the windows blacked out. Yeah, just in case there's cameras, because you would be so paranoid if your income was violent crime, that the police would be wiring the phones or the apartment or spying on you. So they were always living with this edge of are we going to get caught? Is the Chin going to go to jail soon? How are we going to make money when he goes to jail? Yeah.
This reminds me, too, of how volatile that decade was. Just everything that was going on socially, politically in the 60s. Right. And I love that Godfather of Harlem really kind of shed the light on all of that. Yeah. Because there is this conflict between, Bumpy running his drug game, but also the civil rights movement and Malcolm X, and it's kind of this conflict of ideals, and there's so much struggle.
Yeah, and it's really interesting seeing the civil rights movement from the perspective of a gangster. And because he's fighting as well, and just seeing all the different angles. And I love that in the show you've got Malcolm X and then Adam Clayton Powell and Bumpy Johnson, and all these different perspectives on it. Yeah.
They're all trying to protect Harlem and lift Harlem up, but also get the most for themselves. I mean, there's nobody's intentions were super pure.
Right.
Which I think is important to sort of look back at that era and how it was, I think, for
And it's a great conversation of how power can infiltrate even if you have good intentions. Or Bumpy's dilemma, where his daughter is addicted to heroin, and yet that's the way that he makes his money, and him trying to uplift his community, but needing to earn money from selling heroin in order to do that, which is the thing that's corrupting his community. So it's the very interesting conversations.
Which is why this show is so good.
Right.
Because you watch it and you think you know how somebody feels, or you're on their side, and then all of a sudden it shifts when you hear another perspective. And that's what keeps it so dynamic, especially with Stella. You can understand her desire for love and progress, but also her ties to her family.
Right. And it's interesting that none of the characters in this are essentially good. It's everyone's in this struggle and up against the system. And even for Stella, she's in love with Teddy, but her being with him is putting his life in danger. And she knows that, and she knows her life's in danger by doing it too, but him more so. And she's come from this gangster family, so she's always kind of had this dark cloud above her head that, she can't really escape this violence. It's a part of her. And she's really endangering Teddy by being with him. And even though it's the love story, it's not all good. She's there's a dark side to that too, of being I love you, but
but we both might die.
Yeah, you could die by being with me, and she's okay with that.
Like
I
if you
don't
saw
know.
that on Tinder, you would swipe left.
Yeah.
All the time, right? But here we
Right? Yeah.
are. So this role, looking back at your IMDb and some of the work you've done, seems really kind of different. Was this a meteor role or something that really challenged you in a unique way?
It did, yeah. And I feel like I've always brought as much as I can to every character that I play. I feel like this role was a bit tougher and more sassy than anything I've played before. And there was a slight like comedy to that. Like she had a bit of a lightness, like she wants to play a lot, but from this kind of sassy place. And yeah, I guess the accent as well and the time period and yeah, getting to research and what that would be like to come from a crime family. It was very different to anything that I've played before, but I feel like all my characters are really different to the last one. Yeah.
When did you move to LA?
5 years ago?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So what has your journey in the industry been like since you moved from Australia to here? Because, there is a film industry in Australia, but here everything seems to be super heightened.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. There's a lot more happening here. So I feel so grateful to get to come and work here because there's so much going on. And I guess when I was first here, I was really overwhelmed by everything. And I was like so excited to get to act and to have the chance to work here. And I guess it's I don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about the progression of it because it's just like one role at a time, and every role I do I get completely invested in and I'm like, this is amazing, and then the next one I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I just like I think that I just love taking it one step at a time. Yeah.
That's probably the best way to do it, right? Is just to like take it project by project and try to be calm about it versus super anxious and stressed out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to think about it objectively because it's just like...
Well, you're in it.
Yeah, it's just your life. You just have to go through.
So on that note, I know you have a couple of other projects that are in the works or coming out. So what can you tell us about what you have going on?
I just did a film called Waldo, and it's a sort of dark comedy detective story. And it's got Charlie Hunnam plays the detective and Mel Gibson plays this sort of drunk actor who's killed his wife or thinks he's killed his wife. And Charlie's character lives in Idlewild, which is the mountains outside of LA. And he gets lured back to Los Angeles to solve this murder mystery. And my character is the kindergarten teacher who's teaching Mel Gibson's daughter, but she's secretly up to all sorts of mischief. She's got a little bag of secrets. Yeah.
It's sort of a thriller or a comedy.
More
comedy?
Psychological thriller, but more dark comedy. Yeah. The context of it is like trying to solve the murder, but it kind of becomes hilarious because it's all based around this LA private school. This kindergarten with all of like the interesting characters of LA and just how ridiculous it is to have. I mean, sometimes I walk around LA, I'm like, what is this place? Like so much money and all these people who are really famous, and these kids are going to this kindergarten and then like noticing that the murder has happened around the kindy and around like the feuds between the parents who are kind of being really competitive in this LA world.
You said the kindy?
Oh, in Australia we call kindergarten kindy.
I like it. I'm going to bring that here.
Yeah,
Kindy.
kindy.
It makes it sound more fun.
Right?
And working with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. I mean, growing up in Australia, he's such an Aussie legend. And it was fantastic. And he was really hilarious in it. So... Yeah.
Not wait to see that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really funny. Yeah.
For you, I love all the amazing things happening for you. I mean,
Thank
Godfather of
you.
Harlem is so good.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of this project.
A series feels cinematic, really such high quality. It feels like you're watching a film, but we get a whole season. We get episodes to sort of digest it, which is nice.
Right, yeah. I'm really excited about it.
Definitely. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So who do we have first?
Hi, I'm a huge fan of Mako Mermaids.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is really different.
Yeah.
So I was curious, like, if you were when you were on the set of Mako Mermaids, did you see yourself working in such a different genre of?
I feel like as an actor, you kind of want to work in lots of genres because it's exciting to play different characters in different worlds, and the joy of it is to explore as many different aspects of humanity as you can. So yeah, I think so. I mean, I love fantasy. Fantasy is one of my favorite genres, and I've done quite a lot of it. Like I've played a mermaid, a vampire, an elf, an alien. So yeah, I really love that genre, but I'm really enjoying now kind of getting into the roles that are challenging from a perspective of history and reality, and sometimes I feel like reality and the things that happen in real life are so much more extreme and crazy than anything you could ever imagine or put into a fantasy world. I mean, at least emotionally and in the interactions between people, like the things you read about on the news, it's just like that you could never think of that.
I mean, look at our administration. So
Right? No one could write a
sometimes
horror
I wake
film
up and
like
wish that was a fantasy, but it's
Yeah.
not. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question. What's the next one?
Hi. I wanted to ask before you said like you saw Goodfellas and did a lot of research like about this role. Is there any other mob-related movies or shows that informed your role, or also that you just like because it's one of my favorite genres?
Oh, cool. The Sopranos. I loved watching The Sopranos. Again, I was just stealing Lorraine Bracco's voice. And Gloria. I really enjoyed watching that, to have like a badass female leading the mob story. Bronx Tale. There were more of them, but I'm like blanking on them now. Casino. Yeah.
It's a fun genre.
It's a fun genre.
Sure. Those were all really good. You did a lot of research.
Yeah. And I watched them like on repeat because I was like just stealing everyone's voice. And also just like looking at the way that people would hold themselves and just that kind of world. And yeah, it was so fun.
That world is so sexy and enticing, and I think Godfather of Harlem shows all of that, but then it also shows
The
how
underbelly.
ugly,
I mean, yeah.
strategic that these people had to be, which again is super fascinating. So,
And that was the fun part of with Stella, of like playing what parts of the chin she's taken, like the way she schemes and the way she plays too, because like she's a mob boss's daughter, like, and she's doing it so she can be with Teddy. That's how she's like manipulating everything, but she's got a very manipulative side.
she's still playing the game,
She's playing the game,
And I cannot wait to see how her love story ends. I'm going to cross my fingers. I still have a couple more episodes to watch. So
Okay.
if you guys want to check it out, though, Godfather of Harlem premieres September 29th on EPIX. Put your hands together for Lucy.
Thank you so much for having me.